Amma here. If you're new, welcome to the channel. On this channel, we engage in thought-provoking conversations for unity and change. So if you'd like to be part of this movement for change, hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so that you are notified whenever I upload a new video. Recently, we have seen a trend where African citizens have been complaining about police brutality, torture, and corruption. With me in studio is Evidence James, a master's student in law at the University of Cape Town. He's also an author and a Mastercard scholar. He is joining me for today's episode on social contract. Thank you so much, James, for joining me. It's always a pleasure having you in studio.
Thank you very much, Amma, for this time, so opportunity.
So James, what do you think is the cause of these trends that we are observing?
Thank you, Amma. I think you correctly pointed that of late there's been a lot that is happening across Africa, from Nigeria, the SARS, chaos, people dying in the streets, in Zim, police brutality, in South Africa, the COVID corruption, and a lot that is happening even in Zim. There's a lot of corruption as well. So the real cause of these trends, right? These trends rather, is I can tell you is one major cause, a root cause. There's a departure from the social contract. What do I mean? So this is what happened when most African countries attained their independence. Countries did not decolonize, and when they failed to decolonize, they settled in the political systems to utilize the laws, institutions that were being utilized by the colonialists. And with time, most African countries, they came up and established, constitutions, democratic constitutions. But here's the challenge: they are now addicted to the colonialist way of doing things, and they are finding it difficult now to relinquish power. And so in a way they have become the new oppressor. Instead of effecting the constitutions, they are rather, amending the constitutions in order to fit where they are currently. So there's not a reversal.
So in other words, it's we are there's democracy, but it's only in writing, but it's not really shown in practice. Yes.
So that is our biggest problem. So we call ourselves, democratic. We call ourselves constitutional states, but in real terms, we are not democratic countries. So there is confusion and difficulty with most, revolutionary, party-led, countries. It's now a different case, with Malawi, where you now have an opposition that is leading. But with most countries where the ruling parties are former revolutionary movements, you have got that challenge. So there's a departure. I don't know if I must say a departure rather, because I think I can say that because initially when they stepped in, they needed to please the masses, and prove that they're the new government. They can do things differently. But when they settled in, started feeling comfortable. They don't want to move now.
Things change.
They don't want to move now, and they do not want to do what they undertook to do in terms of the democratic constitution that we have.
Can you break down the concept of the social contract?
Thank you, Amma. So, it's very important that we understand what does a social contract mean. And for one to do that, we must imagine a world before governments. Imagine a world before governments had existed. So if we look at that at that time, or if we look at that kind of a scenario, that means no one is paying taxes. There is no law. Individuals, they live, you know, in the way they want. And you can imagine a chaotic world. Survival of the fittest kind of a scenario, right? So, because of that scenario, there are assumptions, right? That are in fact establishes the concept of social contract. So social contract is a concept that is introduced by and even elaborated by a number of theorists, under what is called social contract theories, right? So they elaborate more and they bring in different assumptions and different contexts. So you've got John Locke, you've got Thomas Hobbes there, amongst some of social contract theorists. So because of the chaotic situation that we spoke about, where there is no government, it is assumed that human beings have an inner desire for of self-preservation, to have protection and to have their needs taken care of.
So, like to establish social order in a way.
Social order in a way. So human beings are assumed to have that desire for order and protection. But that cannot be achieved without, an institution like a government. So that is how the social contract emerged, where these people in this initial position, which is called the state of nature, right? It's called state of nature. So they sat down and agreed amongst themselves and say, look, we need order. But for us to have order, we need to agree to abide to a certain set of laws and give power and surrender our freedoms and give power to an authority. And this authority, in return for the surrender of this power, the authority will offer protection, will maintain order for the benefit of everyone. So it's a social contract in the sense that the people gave away, they surrendered some of their freedoms, and the state on the other side, now the government, which is now the authority, and it differs with political systems. Right? So you've got democratic government, you've got aristocratic,
communist.
And autocratic governments, right? So it depends as to, it depends with the government. But here, the government has been given this authority. And for that authority, the government has to protect, provide for your elderly people, provide for the disabled people. So no one will go hungry, no one will die, we have a shorter life, or no one will be threatened from destruction of property in a way. So if you can understand it from that perspective, that is basically the social contract. And the social contract that we're speaking about is embodied, in the Constitution. So the Constitution in itself is the social contract.
Yeah, true.
If you open the Constitution, most constitutions, you will see there are fundamental rights of citizens, right? And you see the Constitution applying amongst citizens, right? So between a citizen and another citizen. And where the Constitution applies between a citizen and the government, which is called vertical application. So there's vertical application and horizontal application. So that is basically a social contract. So the Constitution that we have right now, they are the social contract, if you can understand it from that perspective. And governments were born out of this social contract.
Okay. Can you demonstrate a departure from the social contrast based on the understanding of the social contract that you've just given?
Alright, so yes, so I think it is important to just point out that the central focus of this conversation is on that departure from the social contract, which is an undesirable thing, and which is causing all these problems that we have pointed out earlier on. And to demonstrate that departure, to some depth.
Just to give context.
Right, yes. Let's look at, I'm just going to look at a few countries and what's been happening recently. You have got, if you look at South Africa, you have this COVID-19 tender scandals and corruption, the looting that has been happening. What that means, if you're looking at the social contract, is that instead of the government or government officials, through their offices, instead of them providing for adequate health protection equipment, they're stealing the money, right? They're stealing the money, but they've got obligations in terms of the Constitution, which is the social contract.
So
what they are doing, they are literally not performing their end of the bargain as government. There is a departure that is happening from the social contract. All that they are doing is totally against the Constitution, and as such, it will hurt the ordinary person. While these ordinary persons are paying taxes, they are playing their part, their end of the bargain of the social contract. They are paying taxes and abiding by the rules that are legislated. But on the other side, the government is not doing the same through its officials. Right? Let's go to Zim. An interesting case. Just a few days back, the niece to the sitting president was caught smuggling 6 kgs of gold in her handbag. 6 kgs, no paperwork. She was allowed through the checkpoints. and imagine, it's alleged that they had to switch off the CCTV at the Harare International Airport, the Robert Mugabe International Airport. And this is an international airport.
You can just imagine how many CCTVs are there.
Switching them off. So you can see how deep the corruption is. And thank God, someone managed to detect that attempt to loot so much gold. And just a few days back, there was a march, against sanctions. And you get to wonder, because that gold was valued at around 300. It's slightly over 300,000 US dollars. That's a lot of money, and that man would have done so much Because if there are taxes that are paid when when such kind of exports are processed at the border, by the revenue authorities and things like that. So, and I can tell you, in that scenario, in that scandal, there are about 5 more people that have been arrested, and amongst those, you've got top police bosses. You've got police bosses in there. People who are supposed to be protecting the people. Mind you, I said the social contract.
It's supposed to maintain.
So there is an obligation to protect the citizen. The citizens have relinquished some of their rights, right? In return for what? For the protection from the state. But now what is happening is those who are supposed to be protecting the citizens and safeguarding the interests of the citizens, they are the people who are hating the citizens. Yeah. They are not playing their part of the bargain. And that is a departure from the social contract. We have seen police brutality. The people who are supposed to be protecting citizens. We have seen the army shooting people just on the 30, around the August of the election year, 2018, right? People were shot in the streets, and they were shot at the back, meaning they were running in one direction, and the army was coming from another direction, and they used live rounds. And there's no one who's been charged for that. And these are people who are supposed to be protecting citizens. And what happens there? So you've got citizens who are obeying the law, who are paying tax on the other side of the contract. And on the other side, what do they get? They're getting killed. They're getting arrested unlawfully.
Yeah.
All these things. And the corruption.
The SARS situation?
Yes, in Nigeria. So you've got the same police brutality. You've got state-sanctioned, abductions and torture. That is happening. And yet, if we look at these constitutions, it is the state which is supposed to protect citizens from, harm that comes from within and from outside. And yet now they have departed from the social contract, and they are the ones who are breaching the contract by doing, exactly what they are supposed to be, defending against. So I think that kind of gives you a sense of this departure.
Given the observations that you've made, what can be done to deal with the shortcomings of the current political system?
Yeah, thank you, Amma. Yeah, so there are really serious shortcomings. If we look at the adherence to the social contract by one party to the social contract, which is the government, through government officials. We're engaging in corruption and lawful activity and all that. Yes. So I would rather first say that it is important, that we observe and talk about, the social contract, and for a reason that we need to go back to the social contract, and we can't go back to something that we don't know. So first we need to know, right? So we need to go back. And how does that going back, or what does that going back entail?
Yeah.
It entails that the government would have to govern for the people, through the people, by the people.
Yeah.
And the citizens would have to begin or entrench the culture of holding government to account. Demand transparency. If we can do that, we can say, yes, we have gone back to the social contract. But this is not going to be easy. We need to do something else for us to be able to go back to the social contract. Because apparently we are in this place because of certain defects of the system. So what do we need to do? Firstly, let's look at the judiciary. the constitutions have been designed such that the judiciary will be independent, right? And judges would exercise their powers without fear, favor, or prejudice. So, if courts are protected, if we advocate for the non-interference with the judiciary, it means courts are going to provide appropriate checks and balances on the government, which means anyone who falls out of line. Because the constitution, if you look at the South African Constitution, it says any conduct or any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is invalid. And who is the custodian of the Constitution? It is the judiciary.
True.
So the judiciary is going to court order any government official.
Or anyone for that matter.
Yes, or anyone for that matter, yes, who does not abide to the social contract. So if we can safeguard the independence of the judiciary, we can go back to the social contract.
Yeah.
Another thing, because if I think, police brutality and the army, brutality is really a problematic thing. You have mentioned, and we have seen. We've seen it in South Africa, Marikana, and Zim, and now Nigeria currently. How do we deal with that? How do we ensure there is respect for human rights? I think we need to look back at the training of the military and the police. To what extent are they conscientized about the social contract? Because when they are deployed, they must understand that they are not just being deployed. They are being deployed to fulfill one end of the social contract, which is to protect and preserve the lives of the citizens who are on the other side of the social contract.
So education is
it's very important. So we might need to revisit, military training and police training, and so there has to be even a month. I don't think it should be a problem to increase their period of training by just adding a month, which is dedicated to being educated about the law and the Constitution. So if we can do that, then at least we can have some respect for the law and respect for human rights. So I think that if we are looking at some of the most problems that we're having, those are like major points, I can tell you. But campaigns can also go a long way in terms of conscientizing the public, because I think here's where the problem is. If parties to this contract are not aware that there are parties to a social contract, it becomes a problem, because who is going to enforce it?
Parties, you mean if the public, because public
Yeah.
is the party?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. So the public, if the public are not really aware and conscientized, because if they feel that they are just legal subjects who are being led, the state is doing them a favor in whatever that they are doing, and they in a way they deserve to be beaten by the police, they deserve to be killed by the army, and all these inhumane treatments, we've got a problem there, because who is going to enforce the contract if these people, the public, us, do not really understand the terms that we signed up to?
Because I know that there are a lot of people that when government provides good service, they praise the government. They're like,
Yes.
oh my God, there is good service.
Yes.
But they shouldn't be even praising them that much because actually they're entitled to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I wouldn't think there's, like praising someone for a good job is something good. I mean, I think it's part of our humanity that we must, appreciate somebody who has done a good job. But I think I really get you when you mention this. I don't think it's even praising. It goes further to worshipping. I had one guy crying on television, whilst everyone else, like one doctor, was crying on television, like Begum Zim was crying on television for a certain salary, which other doctors were actually striking against. But in a way, he was really crying and appreciating, thanking the president, for paying him well, and you wonder, this is not supposed to be so. This is not supposed to be so, because there is that entitlement. It's there, it's a right, because you surrendered your rights to the state. You are paying the taxes to the state, and the government must play its part of this contract. So that it is very, very important that our people are educated. And what most governments are doing, they do not advertise, they do not share, like in a way spread out and conscientize the public about the constitution. They keep the laws hidden in order to keep people in the dark, because once people are enlightened, they're gonna come knocking at the government's door and say, hey, you are supposed to be doing this, you are not doing it. So governments are happy to keep
so that they're not held accountable.
Yes, they won't be held accountable. So it's very, very important. And one of those initiatives is exactly what we are doing right now. So whoever is going to be listening to this conversation as part of our audiences, if they don't know about this concept, they will never be the same again. They will never look at government the same again. They will never look at themselves in the same way again.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So these are some of the things that can actually be done. Yeah, for us to go back to the social contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that was thought-provoking. I can't stop thinking about this. This is very, very important. We need such discussions, and I wish more people can tune in for this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again, and I'm looking forward to having you again next week for our next episode. Yeah.
No. Thank you, Amma, for providing the time and of course the platform.
Yeah.
We really need a lot of these, and I think it is really one of those subjects. I don't think we can ever speak about this enough. It's one of those subjects that really concerns me when I look at how governments are really capitalizing on the ignorance and manipulating people. Say we gave you rights. You did not give anyone any rights. The rights were agreed upon in terms of the constitution. Yes.
If you have any thoughts about today's conversation, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. Until we meet again next week Saturday, take care and bye.